Well, hello folks. I'm going to take you through my yard, a little walk and talk. So I just wanted to cut in just to say that this walk and talk is also going to be a little bit of a channel update. And I also wanted to mention that some of my subscribers have told me that my short videos are not sending out notifications when I drop them. So if you want more channel updates, or even if you want just, updates on some of the projects I've worked on, go check out my shorts. I have a playlist on my homepage, and I think there may be a shorts tab that you can actually find all of my shorts at. And myself, I'm enjoying a little bit of winter warmer, cozy in the house, roaring suns. Highly advise it if you get a chance. I'm gonna have to grab my crappy umbrella because it is raining, and take you through this. So yeah, I didn't drop a video this week, and if you're ever curious what's going on, check out the community tab. I had to go to a funeral for a death in the family, and it was someone in our family who lived to a very ripe old age, into her 90s. I could only hope to get so much, and it's a reminder, being at the funeral, getting to see family, and it's a reminder about the importance of rebirth, something I've droned on and on about on this channel, about the importance of regrowth and rebirth and putting our efforts into what comes next. It's the only comfort that I find in a situation like that. A loss is a loss, but I am comforted by the family that's going to come after we're all gone. So yeah, if you're ever curious what's going on, if I'm not posting videos, check out my community tab. I usually keep people updated as to what's going on. Also, I have lots of older videos that might be able to hold you over if you're looking for some content from me that didn't really get a lot of love. So maybe go and browse around and check those out. And I also have a second channel called Texas Tree Ape, and there's a link to it in the banner on Cross Timbers Permaculture. It's got ambience videos mostly, and on Cross Timbers Permaculture I just loaded an ambience video. It's just rain on my front porch. It's an actual rainstorm. I like to capture my own ambience videos rather than using the ones on YouTube, because I find a lot of them they're not using real sounds. I mean, well, they're real sounds, but it's not an actual event that they're capturing. So I kind of like the authenticity of it. So what am I going to talk about in the walk and talk today? Well, I've been doing planning for what we're going to do in the spring. And I've made a mention that I've been scaling back over the last couple of years. Well, the last year. And I'm going to scale back this year. I'm not going to grow nearly as much as I used to. Still going to grow some things. Still planning to do some things this spring. But I'm not going to do nearly as many tomatoes and greens that I've done in the past. Just like this past spring, I didn't grow nearly as much as I have before. So this year I'm going to probably grow even less. I'm going to put more efforts into infrastructure. So I'm going to build a lean-to and rebuild my compost bins, and some additional garden beds, do a lot more tree trimming. So the amount of crops I'm going to grow is going to be less, and it's going to be more construction. I have some additional space I've previewed in an earlier walk and talk that I just bought to expand my yard. I'm going to have to clear that out, so I'll be showing a lot of that process. So, and the reason why I'm going to be doing less is because I am going to go back to school. There are some things I still want to do before I kick the bucket, so I want to try those out. So I want to show this right here. I did this. See that hay I've stuffed around it? That's one of the few things I do to guard things against the freeze like this. You can see underneath there is oregano, and you can see the garlic and the wild onion. This is the wild onion. just smashed with ice, and you'll see it'll come through just fine. So I may drop a video. It's a retro vid that I found talking about cedar. I have 2 videos on my channel talking about Ashe juniper and the benefits of it. This was a 3rd video I was going to do. All of those Ashe juniper videos I actually made for a family member. I didn't make them for YouTube consumption. So I don't know, I haven't decided if I'm going to drop it. I may just do mention some of the things in the video here, and this will just have to suffice as my Ashe juniper discussion. But I have raved about the benefits of Ashe juniper if you're lucky enough to have it on your property. This tree trunk you're looking at right here is Ashe juniper. So if you live in this part of Texas, you likely have Ashe juniper somewhere. So what are some of the benefits? Well, the inner bark is quite soft, and you can scrape it off and use it for weaving, actually. And the outer bark is rot resistant, and you can use it for shingling or bedding. So I've mentioned in these garden beds that I create behind the one behind this cedar tree. Yeah, us Texans, we call a Ashe juniper cedar, even though it's not really a cedar tree. But anyway, this garden bed, I laid down cardboard to help kill the grass. One use for the outer bark is you can lay it down in lieu of cardboard if you don't have it. And it's actually a better choice than cardboard. And I'll show you where you might be able to get a source for that bark. So you can see those logs down there. I can use a draw knife, and I've done this several times before, to scrape that bark off so I can use these posts. And rather than throw the bark away, I can use it for that purpose. And I'll probably do a short one of these days to show that the leaf litter that collects underneath these cedar trees, right now I'm not going to be able to show it to you because of the ice, but the leaf litter that collects under the cedar trees, you can pick it up if you're camping and use it as a scouring pad. And it can actually clean any pots or pans you have that end up caked with food, and then you rinse them off in a stream. It's excellent if you're trying to keep your stuff clean. You can hear I don't know if you can hear it, but it's just crunchy ice. This is not snow. And the leaves of Ashe juniper, if you burn them green, it works if you burn them dry, but it especially works if you burn them green because it creates more smoke. Excellent mosquito repellent. I would not advise rubbing the leaves on you. A lot of people are allergic, but if you burn the green leaves in a campfire and you're getting plagued by mosquitoes and bugs, they will just scatter once you start doing that. So those are some of the uses. Rot resistant wood, I use it for stakes and fence posts. You can use it for building material. It's just a wonderful, wonderful plant to have. You look at the fall color on the native blackberry. It's quite red. You can see it's quite useful. There's a tribe of indigenous people in the Pacific Northwest. It's a different species of cedar. I think it's a true cedar, but they use that bark. They use the whole cedar tree, and they revere the plant so much they've even called themselves the people of cedar. And having my own version of it down here, I can see why. Extremely useful. I want to show you this right here. I mentioned that the little blue stem gets a bit of a fall color on it. You can see it here, and I actually think it's quite pretty from a distance, especially. You can see it. Here, try to point at it right there. See it? It's kind of a yellow, reddish brown, pinkish color. To me, it's really beautiful. Here's one of my little Ashe junipers. So, I mentioned a retro vid that I'll be dropping soon. And one of my next vids, probably going to be water management. Water management on that part of the yard. It's a lot more complicated over here, and it's in flux because I'm building garden beds, and that all changes how the water flows. Well, I'll probably finish out the water management series just for completion. I'm a completionist. And let's see here. Yes, part of water management, and I already did a video on this, is how I'm capturing water in this pond. Okay, doesn't look like much of a pond right now in this video, but it's filled up with this seasonal creek. Now, a lot of lakes in Texas, probably elsewhere, are actually filled up by a river. And I mentioned in that video when I covered this part of the yard, that you really don't want to have a stream flowing straight into your impoundment, because it will fill it up with soil. And I also mentioned that for right now, that's desirable for me because it's a free source of soil to build my garden beds. But eventually I'm not going to want that. And I've discussed a few things on how to control that. Well, I've been spending some time researching, looking at what actual scientists do whenever they build dams and how they control silting. I wanted to know if it was a problem in the lakes that are built this way, and it sure is. It's actually a huge problem. And what they do, there's three main methods for controlling silting in an impoundment. You control the erosion upland, which really can't do because most of the upland for the seasonal stream is not my property. I have no control over that. I have about 5 feet that I can do some control, and then it hits an easement, which is right about here. This is all running on easement, and then the easement ends right there where that hole is. So on the easement, anything that I do could potentially be destroyed by a utility company. So prior to the easement, you see here this log laying on the ground, pointed out for you, right here, this log right here. Everything behind that to the fence, that little bit of the stream, that I could control the sedimentation. So it's really not going to do a lot of good. Another thing that they use is silt redirection. And again, it's usually done upland, up higher in the stream, which I have no control over. So that's not going to do me a lot of good. And I mentioned what my next method is to create a few mini impoundments prior to the main impoundment. So I have that little hole there, which I'm going to dig out more. And I mentioned that right here where this log is, I'm going to create a dam to try to slow down the water and make it drop its silt here. So I can still mine out the silt and use it for my garden beds as fertilizer, because it's very rich stuff. But then it will help reduce the amount of silting that gets into the final impoundments. So I'll probably mention that's one of the things I'm going to do. That's part of what I plan on working on and spending my energy on over the next year, are those types of construction projects rather than growing things, because I need to free myself up. If you've, oh wow, look at this. I did a video talking about the weird winter, and look at the asparagus around the pond. Look how big it got prior to the freeze. See this big green stalk here? That is asparagus. This green stalk is asparagus, and another one here. That's how confused the plants were. This is something I'll show you. See these black buckets? That's another thing that I do sometimes. If it's going to be very cold for very long, I'll do that to cover it. We'll see what survives, if anything. I don't have much hope for the sage back there. And if you look, I really didn't cover most of my, you can see the hay on top of my oregano, but in front of the oregano to the left, here is the Claytonia experiment. I got a feeling that I just killed it, but we'll see. Its native environment, it can handle much colder than that. We'll see what happens. So, just a minor little update, little walk and talk to get a view of how pretty it looks whenever there's so much snow. I have mentioned this, there's no reason why your garden can't be functional and edible, but also pretty. So that's kind of what I strive for, at least some aesthetic value. And I think this type of wilderness, the cross timbers, well, I kind of grew up here, so I've always been in love with it. Okay, folks, I'm getting proper cold. I'll take myself inside, and I hope y'all do the same. Talk to you later. And of course, it wouldn't be a Cross Timbers permaculture video if I didn't forget something that I wanted to say and have to add on in something at the end. Wanted to show the temperature. I don't know if you can see it there. It's not terribly cold. It's a little bit below 32 degrees. Let's see if it's slightly above freezing. It's very slightly above freezing. But that doesn't matter. Because see, in Texas, for those that aren't from around here, for at least this part of Texas, the panhandle might be a little different. But for this part of Texas, if there is even a half a millimeter of snow, it's a statewide holiday. Okay, folks, for real. I'll talk to y'all later.